Now I know we've all heard about blockbuster games that break sales records, but what about those hidden gems that for some reason just didn't make the cut at the cash register? Like from epic adventures to mind-bending puzzles, these games had it all, except the sales number. Like, were they simply ahead of their time? Did they suffer from poor marketing? Some maybe. Or was it something else entirely? Dun dun dun! Moving on.
Okay, moving on!
Today we're going to take a look at 5 games that just never seem to get things right.
I just love that last part.
I'm gonna start things off with Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire, starting off our list at number 5. This is a game that somehow managed to simultaneously be a masterpiece and a commercial flop. That's not easy to do. So why did a game with so much potential fail to hit the mark? Well, to start, the story in Deadfire isn't your run-of-the-mill RPG tale. It's deep, complex, woven with choices that actually matter. It's the sort of narrative that keeps you thinking long after you logged off. Every decision you make carves a path through the game, and sometimes you're left wondering, what if? Did I make the right choice? It's thrilling and a bit daunting. It's like being the main character in a high-stakes drama where the script is written on the fly, and that's overwhelming. Now, the combat in Deadfire is a work of art in of itself. It's this seamless blend of real-time action and pause-based strategy that appeals to all kinds of gamers, whether you're the guy who likes to dive right into the action and beat everyone up, or the guy who likes to take a step back and chill and analyze every move. The game's got you covered. It is challenging, but in a way that's rewarding. You know that feeling when you come up with a killer strategy and it works out perfectly? Yeah, that's Deadfire. But here's the million-dollar question: why didn't Deadfire make waves in the gaming world? Well, here's the dealio. First off, there's the genre, isometric RPGs. That's a gamer speak for it. Looks a bit old school, but it's cool, I promise. You know, it's like that classic car everyone admires but no one really wants to drive. They're intricate, detailed, and not everybody's first choice. These games demand time and attention. They're not your typical jump in and jump out kind of deal. Second was the marketing. It wasn't great, because it was kind of stealthy, it was kind of sneaky. If Obsidian was trying to keep it a secret, they did a great job. In a market dominated by games with marketing budgets with the size of small countries, Deadfire was more of a whisper in a thunderstorm. You know what I mean? It was not a lot there. And then there's the timing of the release. Deadfire came out when every other game company decided to drop their blockbuster titles too. Bad timing. Why did you do that? You're acting like the red-headed third cousin at a family reunion. Sure, you're there, but is anyone really noticing that you're there? Now, I gotta talk about the game's complexity. Deadfire is rich in detail, which is fantastic for gamers who love to deep dive, but for others it might be a little bit too much to take in, and not everyone's ready for that kind of commitment. Plus, being a sequel, Deadfire sort of assumes that you're familiar with its predecessor, and if you're new to the series, it's like walking into season 4 of a TV show without watching season 1. You're sure, you'll figure it out eventually, but you'll spend half the time wondering who everybody is and why is everybody laughing at the jokes that you don't know. But now I'm gonna talk about the characters. Oh boy, the characters. They're more fleshed out and pumped up than a bodybuilder in peak season. But remember, with great character depth comes great responsibility. To remember who everyone is and why you should care. Now let's poke the elephant in the room, the game's complexity. There are systems on top of systems in here. You thought you were just playing a game. Haha, surprise! You are now a part-time accountant, strategist, and detective, but there's more. The game's visual style is a delightful throwback. It's like a true homage to the RPGs of old, but in an age where gamers expect their retinas to be constantly dazzled. Deadfire's understated beauty might just have been a little bit too subtle. The voice acting, it's everywhere. Every NPC has something to say, and boy, do they take their time saying it. It's great for immersion, but not so great when you've heard the same NPC drone on about their lost cat for the umpteenth time. We know! And lastly, the choices. You've got more choices than a kid in a candy store. Every decision you make ripples through the game like a boulder in a pond. It's both empowering and terrifying. It's like you now have the keys to the kingdom, but you have no idea what you're doing and what are the consequences that are gonna happen down the road. Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire, in summary, is a masterpiece that perhaps didn't get the spotlight it deserved. It's a game that really offers a deep, enriching experience for those who are willing to explore its depths. It may not have reached the heights of mainstream success, but for those of us who've experienced its wonders, it's a journey we're not likely to forget.
You got style, Cap. Worm-riddled, ship-sinking, flat-fucking freaky style.
Moving on to number 4, we have Enslaved Odyssey to the West, created by the talented team at Ninja Theory. Enslaved is not just another post-apocalyptic game with a bland narrative. No, it's an action-adventure game that sets itself apart with a fantastical twist on the future. Imagine a world where nature has reclaimed its cities, and the remnants of humanity are up against not only the elements, but robotic foes. Sounds like something you would take out of a really good sci-fi bestseller novel, right? You play as Monkey, a character who's both as nimble and fierce as his name suggests, bound against his will to trip. a tech wizard with her own agenda, their story unfolds in a world that's as beautiful as it is dangerous. The dynamic between these two is the game's heartbeat. It's a story of trust, survival, and unexpected camaraderie that unfolds like a movie where you're the lead actor. The visuals in Enslaved are absolutely stunning, and you can tell the developers were ahead of their time with this one. The combat system further complements this by offering a fluid, action-packed experience. It makes you feel powerful and take control, which is a great feeling for any game. But despite all these fantastic feelings, Enslaved didn't quite live up to its potential. Timing is a big deal in the gaming industry, and unfortunately, Enslaved found itself in a David versus Goliath situation. They released it amidst other heavy hitters. It was a battle for attention, and Enslaved was the underdog that just couldn't quite bark loud enough. The marketing, or the lack thereof, is another piece of this puzzle. In a world where hype is king, Enslaved was like a hidden treasure that few knew existed. It didn't get the grand marketing push that can make or break a game's success in its initial days. The unique gameplay, though, while innovative and super engaging, might not have resonated with everybody. Gamers often gravitate towards familiar play styles or genres, and Enslaved, with its unique mix of narrative depth and action, might have been a bit too ambitious for the mainstream at the time. In an era where multiplayer modes dominate, Enslaved chose to tell a story, a single-player, play-by-yourself with no friends type of story. In hindsight, this focus on narrative depth at a time when quick multiplayer action was becoming the norm may have narrowed its down appeal even further. And then there's the name. Enslaved Odyssey to the West is a little long, it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, nor does it instantly convey the essence of the game. First impressions matter, and the title might not have made the best first impression needed to draw players in. Enslaved wasn't just a game, it was a labor of love. You can tell it's a canvas where art and technology met. The game's development was a journey in of itself, with Hollywood talent like Andy Serkis adding depth and drama to the characters. It was more than a game, it was a cinematic experience packed into a console. And the world, it's not your typical bleak dystopian setting. It's a world where nature has reclaimed its place, offering a glimpse of beauty amidst chaos. It's a refreshing take on the post-apocalyptic tale where everything is dull and gloomy and everyone's like, oh no, I'm gonna die, woe is me. Like, come on, isn't it nice to hear that, hey, look at that, doomsday happened and it looks pretty good? Yet, despite all these incredible elements, Enslaved remained a gem hidden in the sands of time. It's a game that deserved the spotlight but was overshadowed by bigger titles and limited marketing. It's a reminder that sometimes great games don't get the recognition they deserve, not because they don't lack quality, but because they were perhaps ahead of their time, or simply lost in the shuffle of a crowded market. At number 3, we have The Evil Within 2, created by the horror maestro himself, Shinji Mikami, and his talented crew at Tango Gameworks. The Evil Within 2 is a masterpiece that blends psychological terror with gripping storytelling. It's scary. The game doesn't just play with horror tropes, it revels in them. Do you remember Sebastian Castellanos, our grizzled protagonist with a bad habit for finding himself in the least vacation-worthy spots? Well, this time he's on a quest to save his daughter Lily. Fatherhood and horror. A match made in heaven. Well, actually not in heaven, it's more like hell, but moving on. The storytelling in this sequel is a game changer. While the original, The Evil Within, bombarded us with non-stop horror and adrenaline, this sequel thankfully took a different path. It dove into the depths of Sebastian's psyche, peeling back layers to reveal a tale that's as heart-wrenching as it is horrifying. This isn't just about jump scares and you're going, oh my gosh, I crapped my pants! No, it's about a man's struggle with guilt, loss, and the monsters within. Now I'm gonna talk about the gameplay. The Evil Within 2 offers a blend of stealth, combat, and exploration that keeps you on your toes. The game world, a nightmarish realm called STEM, is a vast open environment filled with horrors lurking around every corner. It is a world that constantly morphs and shifts, playing tricks not just on Sebastian, but on you, the player. Unfortunately, the game didn't sell as well as expected, and you might find yourself wondering why this delightful trip to Nightmare Town wasn't as popular as one would hope. First off, horror games, while thrilling, are kind of like roller coasters. It's not everybody's cup of tea to have the heart rate skyrocket all the time. Surprising, I know. The Evil Within 2 doesn't just ask you to face your fears, it goes, nah, I'm just gonna throw you into a pit of despair and says, good luck, I'm gonna walk away now. Moving on. Now I gotta talk about the matter of its narrative approach. The game decides to focus more on Sebastian's backstory, focusing on the emotional aspects of his journey, because what's better than being chased by nightmarish creatures? Doing so while grappling with deep-seated personal trauma. Of course, that's great, it's like therapy, but now you have monsters in the mix. Definitely sounds like a recipe for success. Now, in a world where games are hyped up more than blockbuster movies, The Evil Within 2 decided to play it cool, almost like a ninja in its approach. It's like, if you build it, they will come. It's a great motto, model unless you're trying to sell a game in an oversaturated market. And here's the thing, the game is a gem for those who actually played it. The blend of stealth, combat, and exploration creates this delightful tension, the kind that makes you appreciate every quiet moment, knowing it could be shattered at any second. The world of STEM is a chaotic and unpredictable landscape. It's like finding a box of chocolates, except every chocolate is filled with a new kind of dread. Yummy. Now I'm going to talk about artistry, the environments, the creature designs, and the atmospheric lighting. It's a horror aficionado's dream come true. But why? Why didn't it capture the hearts of more players? Well, perhaps it's a little bit too real. In a world where we're constantly bombarded with real-life horrors, maybe escaping into a game where you're stalked by your nightmares isn't like everybody's idea of a good time. Go figure. The Evil Within 2 might not have broken sales records, but it broke the mold in terms of storytelling and gameplay in the horror genre. It's a masterclass in psychological horror. It's a dark journey through the human psyche that stays with you long after you turned off your console. So if you're brave enough to step into Sebastian's shoes, you'll find a rich, albeit terrifying, experience awaiting you. Moving on to number 2, we have the 2016 release of Prey. Yes, Prey was born from the creative minds at Arcane Studios, famed for their Dishonored series. Oh my gosh, that was a great game. These are the guys who know their ways around a complex storytelling and a richly detailed world. So you'd expect Prey to be a surefire hit? Well, the universe said nope. In Prey, you step into the space boots of Morgan Yu. The year is 2032 and humanity is reaching new heights, literally, aboard the Talos 1 space station. It's basically a futuristic Titanic minus the iceberg but full of aliens. Your mission is to survive and unravel a web of mysteries involving alien species known as the Typhoon. Basically, you're in a cosmic detective story with a dash of horror added in the mix. Prey offers a smorgasbord of thematic and narrative depth. It's set in an alternate timeline where John F. Kennedy survived the assassination attempt, I know, cool, leading to an accelerated space race and technological advancements. The Talos 1 is a testament to this progress. It's a sprawling, luxurious space station with a dark underbelly. As Morgan unravels the station's secrets, players are treated to a narrative that questions the nature of reality and the ethics of scientific progress. It's really more like a thought experiment wrapped in a cosmic horror story. Players who ventured into Prey were in for a treat. The game's atmosphere is a masterpiece, a hauntingly beautiful yet unsettling environment that could give you goosebumps, like it did me, and the gameplay is as flexible as a gymnast. Like, you want to go in guns blazing? Sure, go ahead! But if you prefer to sneak past enemies or even befriend them, that's possible too, and the story is like peeling an onion with plot twists, layer after layer of intrigue and surprises. Whew, it is so good. The game also introduced a unique mimic mechanic, allowing players to transform into inanimate objects. You ever want to be a coffee cup? Prey made that possible. So cool! And weird, but cool. But there's more to Prey than just its gameplay mechanics. The game's sound design is a symphony of eerie whispers and heart-pounding rhythms, perfectly representing the isolation and the danger of the Talos 1. The visuals? It was a perfect blending of Art Deco elegance with futuristic design. Every aspect of the game was meticulously crafted to immerse players in its world, and it did a heck of a job. So then why didn't Prey sell as expected? Well, the marketing strategy was non-existent. The game's promotional material didn't quite capture the essence of what made it so freaking unique. It's really good. They were like trying to sell a complex wine based solely on the bottle's label. You can't expect somebody to know how great your product is if you don't ever tell them or give them a reason to at least try it. And then there was the name. Prey wasn't just a title, it was a recycled one. This led to confusion among gamers, with many mistaking it for a sequel or a remake of the 2006 game with the same name. Not exactly the best start for establishing a unique identity, I'm just saying. They also missed the mark with the timing of Prey's release. 2017 was a crowded year in gaming, with several heavyweight titles like Horizon, Hellblade, and Mass Effect launching close to their release date. And surprise, surprise, these games actually had a marketing game plan. Haha, I know. On top of that, the gaming industry at the time was undergoing a shift towards more multiplayer and live service games. Unfortunately, its single-player focus and narrative-heavy approach, it was like you're a fish swimming against the current, a lone fish in a vast multiplayer ocean. Prey is a testament to the unpredictable nature of the gaming market. It's a game that combined innovative gameplay and compelling narrative, and also an immersive world, yet fell short in its voyage to commercial success. Perhaps it was too ahead of its time, you know, like a diamond in the rough, waiting to be rediscovered by a new generation of gamers. Hopefully. We'll see. Moving on, now at number 1, we have a game I actually really liked, and in my opinion is one of the most unfortunate failures of all time, the Callisto Protocol. The Callisto Protocol was born from the minds at Striking Distance Studios, led by none other than Glenn Schofield. If that name rings a bell, it's because he's the mastermind behind the hair-raising Dead Space series. Hello! When Schofield and his team, including some veterans from the Dead Space series, started this project, they aimed to create the scariest game on next-gen platforms, taking full advantage of new lighting techniques, 3D audio systems, and the haptic feedback from controllers like the PlayStation 5's DualSense. Not to mention they had an astronomical budget of $160 million. Holy smokes! That's a big development budget to do stuff with. And well, our story unfolds on Jupiter's moon, Callisto, in a prison colony that's more of a nightmare than a correctional facility. You play as Jacob Lee, voiced and motion captured by Josh Duhamel, who finds himself in a horror show involving biophages, a sinister conspiracy, and a prison that makes Alcatraz look like a vacation spot. Alongside him is Danny Nakamura, played by Karen Fukuhara, and they're battling these horrific creatures and uncovering dark secrets. It's a story that explores human ambition, corporate greed, and what happens when experiments with alien life go terribly wrong. Upon release, the Callisto Protocol received a mix of varied reviews. Critics praised its stunning visuals and sound design, hailing these elements as triumphs in creating a palpable sense of dread and horror. However, the game was also critiqued for not venturing far enough into new territory, particularly its gameplay mechanics. The combat system, while innovative in certain aspects, was often described as clunky and frustrating, and to me, the biggest disappointment of all was its linear level of design and lack of enemy variety, which was such a letdown for a game that looked so freaking amazing and got so many things so right. It hurts. Now, I will say it's important to note that the journey to creating the Callisto Protocol was not without its downfalls. The development process involved intense periods of crunch, which is a common but controversial practice in the gaming industry, where developers work excessively long hours to meet tight deadlines. And this aspect of its creation process drew criticism and highlighted the ongoing conversation about work culture in game development today. When it comes to the commercial performance of the Callisto Protocol, the numbers tell a story of unmet expectation. Despite its high production value and significant investment in marketing, the game's sales just didn't reach the heights the creators had hoped for. This underperformance has shadow of doubt over the future of the franchise. It raises questions about the viability of big-budget horror games in a market that is increasingly gravitating towards different genres and monetization models. So what's next for the Callisto Protocol? Will it rise like a phoenix from the ashes, or will it fade into the dark recesses of gaming history? I don't know! But with its mixed reception and unmet sales expectations, the future of this sci-fi horror saga is as uncertain as a walk through its eerie prison corridors. The game, despite its shortcomings, has laid down a very solid foundation that could be built upon in the future. There are stories yet untold in its universe and mechanics that could be refined and improved. Just saying. The gaming community remains divided. Some see the vast potential in the Callisto universe and hope for a sequel, while others think it's time to just let it die. And with that, we now come to the end of the 5 of the biggest flops in gaming history. Let me know down in the comments if you were one of the few who played any of these games, and if so, which one? Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.